What if the cup of coffee you drink every single morning, the one you believe gives you energy, is quietly forcing your kidneys to work harder than they should? I'm not asking this to scare you. I'm asking because I see this pattern again and again in my patients, especially men over 60 who come to me confused, exhausted, and wondering why their bodies no longer feel the way they used to. Many of them tell me the same thing. Doctor, I haven't changed much. I still drink my coffee. I still eat the same. So why do I feel weaker? And that question matters because in medicine, when symptoms appear slowly, quietly, and without pain, they are often the ones we miss the longest. Here's the truth. Most people never hear. Coffee is not simply good or bad for your kidneys, but depending on how and when you drink it, it can quietly strain your circulation, disrupt mineral balance, and place extra pressure on kidneys that are already aging. That doesn't mean you need to panic, and it doesn't mean you need to give up everything you enjoy. But it does mean you need to understand what's really happening inside your body before fatigue night, urination, rising, creatinine, or blood pressure problems become your new normal. In this video, I want to show you what I explain to my patients in private. Not fear, not myths, but the surprising truth about coffee and kidney health and how a small change can protect your energy instead of draining it. Stay with me because what you're about to hear may completely change how you look at your next cup. Here's the first thing I need you to understand because this is where almost everyone gets it wrong. Coffee is not simply good or bad for your kidneys. If it were that simple, my job would be easy. But medicine is rarely black and white, especially when we're talking about aging organs. Many of my patients come in convinced they already know the answer. Some believe coffee is destroying their kidneys. Others swear it's harmless because they've been drinking it for decades. And I understand both sides because the confusion doesn't come from ignorance, it comes from oversimplification. From a medical perspective, coffee is a stimulant. It activates your nervous system, increases heart rate, and changes how blood moves through your body. That alone doesn't make it dangerous. The problem is what happens after, especially in bodies that are no longer 30 or 40 years old. I often hear patients say, "Doctor, I've always handled coffee just fine." And they're right, they used to. But kidneys don't age loudly, they age quietly. What worked for your body 20 years ago may now require far more effort from your kidneys, effort you don't feel right away. And this is where people miss the real issue. Coffee itself isn't the villain. The strain comes from how often, how much, and when your kidneys are forced to respond to that stimulation. Studies have shown that caffeine temporarily alters renal blood flow and filtration pressure. In younger adults, the body adapts quickly. In adults over 60, that adaptation becomes slower and more costly. Think of it like this. Your kidneys are a high-precision filter. They can handle pressure, but not constant pressure spikes without recovery. So when someone tells you coffee is bad for kidneys, that's incomplete. And when someone else says coffee is totally safe, that's also incomplete. The truth, and this is the part most people never hear, is that coffee can quietly stress aging kidneys without causing pain, without obvious symptoms, and without warning signs for years. That's why this topic matters so much, because by the time fatigue night, urination, or rising lab numbers appear, the strain has often been happening for a long time. Now, here's where this becomes even more interesting and a little unsettling, because the real stress on your kidneys doesn't come from coffee alone. It comes from what caffeine does to your circulation in the minutes after you drink it. And once you understand that, everything starts to make sense. In the next part, I'll explain exactly how caffeine changes blood flow and why that single effect can quietly overwork your kidneys without you ever feeling it. This is where coffee begins to affect your kidneys in a way most people never feel, but your body absolutely notices. After you drink coffee, caffeine enters your bloodstream within minutes. It doesn't just wake up your brain, it sends a signal to your nervous system that says, stay alert. And when that signal goes out, your blood vessels respond. Some vessels tighten, your heart rate increases slightly, blood pressure rises just enough to matter, especially in aging bodies. From a medical standpoint, this is called a temporary vascular response. It's normal, but normal doesn't always mean harmless because your kidneys depend entirely on steady, balanced blood flow to do their job. They are not muscles. They don't like sudden changes. They prefer consistency. When caffeine causes even short-term changes in circulation, your kidneys must immediately adjust filtration pressure to keep your blood chemistry stable. In younger patients, this adjustment happens quickly and efficiently. In patients over 60, I see something different. The adjustment still happens, but it costs more energy, more effort, and more strain. I often explain it like this to my patients. Imagine your kidneys as a finely tuned water filter connected to a hose. If the water pressure suddenly spikes, the filter doesn't break right away, but it works harder to compensate. Now imagine that pressure spike happens once a day, then twice, then every morning for years. You don't feel pain. You don't get a warning signal, but the workload adds up. Research published in nephrology journals has shown that caffeine can temporarily increase renal filtration pressure and alter blood flow dynamics. That doesn't cause immediate damage, but over time, repeated stress without recovery can accelerate functional decline in aging kidneys. And this is where many people misunderstand fatigue. They think coffee gives them energy, but what it often does is borrow energy by pushing circulation harder, leaving the kidneys to clean up afterward. That's why some patients tell me they feel alert for an hour, then strangely drained later in the day. Their nervous system was stimulated, but their organs paid the price. And here's the critical part. This strain doesn't come with flashing red lights. It shows up quietly as night urination, unstable blood pressure, dry mouth, or lab numbers that slowly creep upward. Now stay with me because circulation is only half of the story. There's another effect of coffee that works even more quietly, one that slowly drains the very minerals your kidneys rely on to function properly. And once you understand that, you'll see why some people feel worse the more coffee they drink. In the next part, I'll explain how coffee quietly depletes key minerals and why that loss can make kidney stress even harder to detect. This is the part almost no one talks about, and it's one of the quietest ways coffee can stress your kidneys. It's not just about circulation. It's about what coffee slowly takes away. Over time, caffeine increases the loss of key minerals through urine, magnesium, calcium, and zinc. On paper, that may not sound dramatic, but inside the body, especially after 60, it changes everything. I often hear patients say, "Doctor, I drink coffee, but I also eat well," and I believe them. The problem isn't always intake, it's retention. Your kidneys are responsible for keeping minerals in balance. When caffeine nudges the body to excrete more than usual, the kidneys have to work harder to maintain that balance day after day, cup after cup. Let me put this in simple terms. Minerals are like the lubrication that keeps your internal systems running smoothly. Without enough of them, nerves misfire, muscles fatigue, faster blood vessels lose flexibility, and recovery slows down. Magnesium helps blood vessels relax. Zinc supports immune and hormonal balance. Calcium keeps nerve signaling stable. When these quietly drop, the body doesn't scream, it whispers. Patients begin to notice subtle changes, more nighttime urination, cramping, poor sleep, a strange kind of tiredness that coffee no longer fixes. And here's where stress oxidation enters the picture. Low mineral levels make tissues more vulnerable to oxidative stress, the gradual damage caused by unstable molecules that increase with age. Studies have shown that oxidative stress plays a role in kidney aging and vascular stiffness, especially when antioxidant defenses are weakened. So now the kidneys are dealing with two pressures at once: circulatory strain from stimulation and reduced mineral support to protect delicate tissue. That combination is powerful, and it's easy to miss because people don't feel sick. They just feel off. More coffee seems like the answer, but in many cases, it quietly deepens the problem. Now, here's the moment where most people expect bad news. But stay with me because this is not where I tell you to give up coffee entirely. In fact, the next part is where things get surprising. Because when used correctly, coffee doesn't always drain the system. Sometimes it can actually work with your body instead of against it. In the next part, I'll show you when coffee can actually be protective and why timing and dose change everything. This is the moment where most people are surprised because this is not the part where I tell you to quit coffee. What matters is how coffee is used. In my practice, I've seen patients who drink coffee every day and show no signs of kidney stress, and others who struggle despite drinking the same amount. The difference isn't luck, it's timing, dose, and context. Coffee contains more than caffeine. It also contains antioxidants like polyphenols compounds that can help reduce inflammation and support vascular health. Several large observational studies have even linked moderate coffee consumption with lower risk of certain chronic conditions. But here's the key word: most headlines leave out moderate. When coffee is consumed in small amounts with food and earlier in the day, the body handles it very differently. Blood pressure spikes are milder. Circulatory changes are shorter, and the kidneys have time to recover. I explain it to patients this way. Coffee can be like a sharp tool. Used carefully, it's helpful. Used constantly, it causes wear. 1 cup taken after breakfast gives the body a controlled stimulus, not a shock. The nervous system activates circulation, responds, and then settles back into balance. But when coffee is used to push through exhaustion, skipped meals, or poor sleep, it becomes something else entirely. It stops supporting the body and starts overriding it. Research has shown that consuming more than 2 to 3 cups per day, especially on an empty stomach, is associated with higher stress hormone levels and greater fluid and mineral loss. That's when kidneys feel the pressure most. So yes, coffee can fit into a kidney-aware lifestyle, but only when it's respected, not relied on. And this is where many people misjudge their own situation. They assume that because coffee has benefits, it must be safe for everyone all the time. But kidneys don't respond to trends. They respond to load. Which brings us to an important question. Who actually needs to be cautious, and who should seriously rethink their relationship with coffee altogether? Because for some people, even moderate isn't truly moderate. In the next part, I'll explain who should be especially careful with coffee and the warning signs most people overlook until it's too late. This is the point where I slow my voice down with patients because this is where coffee stops being a habit and starts becoming a risk. Not everyone should treat coffee the same way. In my clinic, there's a pattern I see again and again. Patients who struggle the most with coffee usually don't realize they're the ones who need to be cautious. They don't feel sick. They don't feel dramatic symptoms. They just notice changes they can't quite explain. More trips to the bathroom at night, dry mouth in the morning, blood pressure that seems harder to control, lab numbers that inch upward year after year, not suddenly but steadily. These are not random signs. They often appear in people with early kidney stress, mild dehydration, or reduced renal reserve, something that becomes more common with age. And here's what makes this tricky. Many of these patients drink coffee because they feel tired. They think coffee is helping them cope. But from a physiological standpoint, caffeine can mask fatigue while quietly increasing fluid loss and renal workload, especially in people who already urinate frequently or struggle with hydration. Studies in nephrology and cardiovascular research have shown that individuals with hypertension, reduced kidney function, or high nighttime urination are more sensitive to caffeine's effects on blood flow and fluid balance. In simple terms, their kidneys feel the impact sooner and recover more slowly. This doesn't mean coffee caused the problem, but it can absolutely amplify it. And I want to be very clear here. This is not about blame. It's about awareness, because when patients finally connect their symptoms, the poor sleep, the late day crashes, the constant thirst to something as routine as coffee, they often feel relieved, not scared, relieved, because it means the solution may be simpler than they thought. And that's where hope enters the conversation, because for many people in this group, protecting their kidneys doesn't require giving everything up. It requires choosing something better, something that supports energy without draining the system. And that brings us to the final piece, the alternative most people never consider. In the next part, I'll show you how to maintain steady energy without stressing your kidneys, and what many of my patients switch to instead. This is where everything finally comes together. Because once patients understand how coffee affects circulation minerals and kidney workload, the question naturally becomes, if I cut back, what do I replace it with? And the answer is not another stimulant. What most people are really chasing isn't caffeine. It's steady energy, clear focus, and a body that doesn't crash a few hours later. In my experience, the patients who feel the biggest improvement are the ones who stop forcing energy and start supporting it. They focus on hydration first. Simple, steady water intake earlier in the day does more for kidney function than any stimulant ever could. Then they choose drinks that work with the kidneys, not against them. Warm, non-caffeinated options that don't spike blood pressure or increase mineral loss. Many of my patients notice that when they make this shift, something unexpected happens. Their energy becomes smoother. They stop feeling wired in the morning and drained in the afternoon. Nighttime urination improves, sleep deepens, and this is not psychological. From a physiological standpoint, when kidneys are no longer under constant stimulation, circulation stabilizes, stress hormones decrease, and fluid balance improves. That's when energy becomes sustainable instead of borrowed. I often remind patients of this. The kidneys are not asking for extremes. They're asking for consistency. You don't need to quit coffee overnight. You don't need to fear it, but you do need to stop using it as a crutch for exhaustion. When energy comes from balance instead of pressure, the entire body responds differently. And that's the real goal here. Not restriction, not punishment, but a quieter, more resilient kind of strength, one that supports your kidneys instead of draining them. Now, before we close, there's one final perspective I want to leave you with, because understanding the science is important, but knowing how to listen to your body is what truly changes outcomes. In the final moments, I want to share how to recognize when your kidneys are asking for support and why paying attention now can change everything later. Before we end, let me bring everything together for you. Coffee itself is not the enemy, but the way it interacts with circulation mineral balance and aging kidneys can quietly affect your energy, your sleep, and your overall vitality, especially as you get older. What I want you to take away from this is simple. Your body is not failing you. It's communicating with you. Fatigue, night, urination, unstable energy, these are not signs of weakness. They're signals. And when you learn to respond with awareness instead of force, real change becomes possible. As a doctor, I care deeply about helping people protect their health before problems become diagnoses. And when it comes to male vitality, small daily choices often matter more than drastic solutions. If this video helped you understand your body a little better, I encourage you to save it. You may want to come back to it or share it with someone who needs this information but hasn't heard it yet. And if you want clear, honest medical guidance about men's health, kidney function, circulation, and natural ways to support male vitality as you age, make sure you subscribe to this channel. Turn on notifications because I regularly share updates based on real clinical experience and current research without fear tactics and without false promises. Now, I'd like to hear from you. Have you noticed changes in your energy, sleep, or how your body responds to coffee as you've gotten older? Let me know in the comments. I read them, and your questions help guide future videos. Take care of your body, pay attention to the signals, and remember, protecting your health today gives you more strength tomorrow.